And we should be good to go. Excellent. Well, welcome to our second Meet the Candidates session for the 2013 At-Large Board of Director seats for the Drupal Association. I'm Holly Ross. I'm the Executive Director over at the Drupal Association, and I'm really excited to moderate today's convening. It's really fun to talk to folks about why they're so passionate about Drupal and how they want to make a change. So I want to thank everyone for being here and give you a few notes about how things will work today. So first of all, if you are not a candidate, you are on mute right now, and that helps us keep the background noise to a minimum. If you are a candidate, you might want to avoid making a smoothie while we do this, just as a reminder. But that does not mean that we don't want to hear from folks who are listening in. In fact, just the opposite. So, we want you to ask a lot of questions throughout the process today. You'll note that you have a questions module in your little panel. Feel free to use that throughout the session today to share the questions that you have for candidates. And you can ask a question of all the candidates, or if you want, you can direct a question at a particular candidate. Just be sure to note that in your question, and I'll be sharing your questions with candidates when we get to the Q&A section. So that's how to ask questions. A couple of notes about how the format will work. The first thing we're going to do is hear statements from the candidates. And while they're speaking, I'll go ahead and share their profile on the screen. Other than that, there's really no video to today's session. So if you see the web page up for a very long time and it's not moving, that's fine. Things are not broken. I just want to point that out. And when all the candidate statements are complete, we will switch to the question and answer format. Again, I'll share your questions. We're going to give candidates a minute or so to answer so we can keep things moving along. Also want to note that we are recording the session today. So if you miss anything or want to share this with colleagues, we'll have that available to you. If the technology gods could please bless me one time this week, we'll have that available to you this evening. And I'll be updating the Meet the Candidates blog posts with the recording and with the transcript when it's ready. So special shout out to Steph Al-Haj for typing like a maniac today in IRC, which reminds me, you can also hang out there in the Drupal Association chat room on IRC, Drupal-Association. Last thing about candidates, just a reminder that your interactions don't have to end here today. We're going to keep the Meet the Candidates pages up for the next couple of days for your questions and answers. So go to association.drupal.org/nominations. You can see the list of candidates. You should see them there now. You can click through to individual candidates, ask them questions, see what they have to say. And then we're going to open voting on Sunday. So look for that. I'm not going to specify a time, but some point on Sunday, it will open. Wherever you are in the world, it will open. So please do vote and encourage your fellow community members to do the same. And I think that's the end of the housekeeping. So let's meet the candidates that we have with us here today. We have Morten. Morten, I still don't have any clue how to say your last name, so I keep calling you Morten DK. I hope you can live with that. Morten, Pedja, Eugenio. We have two Matthews, Matthew Saunders and Matthew Tift with us. And hopefully we'll have a Jared Smith at some point because I can see him on the line. So we're going to start with candidate statements. So I will turn things over to you, Morten. And Morten, I just want you to know that I cannot hear you. I don't know if you muted yourself. Okay. Yep, that's right, Morten. I cannot hear you. Any of the other candidates you want to hop in and make sure that I can hear you?
Hey, this is Jared Smith. Can you hear me?
Jared, we do hear you now. Excellent. Matthew Tift, can I still hear you?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Morton, it might just be you. You may want to try to reconnect, and let's just move forward to Pedja. Hopefully, Pedja, I can still hear you since we finally got that working. Good times. This is all going very well. What about Eugenio? Eugenio, can you speak? I think you're muted right now, but
I can try. Do you hear me?
great. Let's start with Eugenio, and I'll help Morton and Pedja see if they can reconnect.
Okay.
Thanks,
So,
Pedja.
hi everybody. My name is Eugenio. I'm from Italy. I work in a Drupal shop at enterprise level. I'm involved with the community for about 3 years. And I do like communities, and I do like active communities such as Drupal one. And I would want more involvement in some minor community, such probably the Italian one is not so active as I would wish. And my joining is a way to try to support this and to change these kind of things. This small introduction, I would prefer more question and answer so we can confront.
Great. All right. Well, thanks so much. Matthew Saunders, are you still on the line? I see you there. All right. What about Matthew Tift?
I'm here.
All right. We're going to move on to you while we sort out what's going on with everyone else.
Sure. Well, my name is Matthew Tift. I live in Minnesota, in the Twin Cities in the United States. I work for Wisconsin Public Radio, which is in a neighboring state. And I have been a developer at Wisconsin Public Radio for the past 7 years or so, and I helped to lead the effort to relaunch all of WPR's, or Wisconsin Public Radio's, web properties on Drupal. I'm also fairly active in the Drupal community, especially in the public media area, in Drupal Camp Twin Cities, and recently I have been doing a lot more contributions to core, and I'm currently one of the co-maintainers for the Drupal 8's new configuration system. I am very interested in helping to support the board and its mission, and to help with the help support where the community wants to go with Drupal.org, help promoting events. I've been very involved with the Twin Cities Drupal Camp, so I know as an event organizer some of the challenges there, and I think there's some opportunities for the association to continue in its support. It's already very helpful, I know, providing, for example, economic channels for camps to collect money, and I think there's just a few more things in a few more ways that the association could help promote that among camps, because I know some other camps weren't aware of those types of things. So I think there's all kinds of things that I'd like to help out with and support. Many of the current initiatives with the Drupal Association I think are great. So I think in some extent I'm just very interested in helping do more with them and doing more of the great things that they've been doing.
Fantastic. Thanks, Matthew.
Sure.
All right. I'm going to try this now. Hey, Morton, are you there?
I should be there.
All right.
All right.
Morton,
Cool.
tell us about yourself.
Okay. Well, I've been. My name's Morton. I've been in the Drupal community since 4.7, which is about 7 years now. I'm the current. I've been on the board for the last year. I'm the current chairman of the Danish Drupal community, which we could see by the last. At the Drupal conference in Prague this year, we look to be actually the biggest community now in the world, based per person, per country size, which we of course take great pride in. So the last year I've been sitting on the Drupal board, Drupal Association board, and that's been quite of a ride. It's been, I think it's gone quite from very complicated to becoming very easy. And I was kind of feeling that my mission last year is almost done. I'm still missing the last couple of things that I set out to do last year. And as key points, I was getting a more international focus, building up a charter organization around Drupal Association. And make sure that the communication gets way better at the board, and also becomes still keeping this deep contact with our roots, which I think is in the community, which of course is a very easy word to use because basically everybody works with Drupals in the community, but that also means to having your kind of having a contact network a lot around the world all the time, and that's been a thing I've been blessed with the last year to be able to do. So. My mission kind of for the next year is to keep on pushing for this more international focus and keep on pushing for getting a charter organization built around the Drupal Association. I do hope that we can at the same time build up this whole helping tools for Drupal camps around the world. So new people coming in who's not like me and probably the rest of us who's running for the board now have done camps a ton of times. New people coming in, how do we make sure that they get easier tools to work with? And that's kind of one of the things I hope we can do. And also keeping this community focus, where I've been kind of blessed this time to be so deep into the board and knowing so many people that I've actually been able to build up the community summit, which is going to be next week at the DrupalCon, before DrupalCon, and that's the thing I really look forward to actually be able to work on these community things that we all talk about, but let's face it, when we do bigger conferences, those kind of get forgotten, and that's a format that we have had the Drupal Association have had the guts to change this year, and I hope for more of those kind of things in the future. So my main reason I want to run is to actually get the job I promised to do last year, to get that done. 1 year was not enough for me to, in my mind, revolutionize an organization. So I kind of need a year more and then I should be done. So I think that's kind of it.
Awesome. Thanks, Morten. Okay.
You're welcome.
Let's see who looks connected here. Hey, Jared, why don't we try to talk with you? Let's see if this works. All right, Jared, looks like you are muted.
I'm muted, I think.
There you go. And you may want to get really close to your mic.
Okay. Can you hear me better now?
Perfect.
So hello, everyone. My name is Jared Smith. I'm an open source geek. I currently work for Bluehost, a web host company, and I've had a long history of involvement with open source communities. Obviously, I'm involved in the Drupal community, but I've been involved in the Fedora project, as the Fedora project leader a few years ago, as well as community relations manager for the Asterisk Voice of IP project. My motivation for wanting to join the board is to really help grow the Drupal community. I've had a lot of experience in helping to grow and foster different open source communities over the last 7 or 8 years, and I want to take my expertise and apply it to the Drupal community as well. I've taken part in some of the DrupalCons, attended some of the Drupal camps. I'm giving a keynote at Drupal Camp Guatemala beginning of next month, and really I want to focus on how do we keep up? How do we make sure that the development community keeps up with the growth of the user community? How do we make sure that developers don't get burned out if they're doing their best to try to make Drupal the new best CMS in the world? How do we grow the governance so that it's a help and not a hindrance to our future growth, those sorts of things. So I'm excited to be actively involved in the Drupal community and hope to make it better.
Thanks, Jared. Appreciate that. Sounds like you might be somewhere doing something for Drupal right now. All right, and let's see if we can get Matthew Saunders going. Here we go. And Matthew, are you there? Oh, so close. I thought we had you that time. I cannot hear you. I don't know if you have a mute button somewhere, Matthew.
Can you hear me?
Aha! Success.
You can hear me?
Yep.
Yes?
Yeah.
Awesome. Hi, everybody. My name is Matthew Saunders, and I'm the Director of Client Services at Atten Design Group. I've been working in and around and with the nonprofit sector since about 1995. This has included board work on both sides of the aisle, so to speak, both as an employee of nonprofit organizations, but also on a couple of boards. I've been working in the technology space since about 1999, and I've been working with Drupal. I entered the Drupal community on or around 2007. I think the first con that I went to was in Barcelona. And in fact, that's where I met Morten. He was one of the first people that I met in the community, and it was quite a colorful experience and a whole lot of fun. It really made me feel welcome. I'm a process geek. I'm not a coder. I'm not a developer. I'm not a themer. I've made my living around looking at processes, project and process management, and I've engaged those tools in a lot of different projects, ranging from small projects in boutique shops to working as the lead manager in the migration of Examiner.com from Cold Fusion to Drupal 7. I've been deeply involved in the community almost from the get-go. I've been helping organize Drupal camps in Colorado since the second one, which had 13 people in it. I think we apex somewhere around 400 a couple of years ago. I've presented at many camps and cons, including doing a keynote for Drupal Camp Austin, and I was one of the organizers for DrupalCon Denver. My motivations behind wanting to pitch in with the association is simply that the community embraced me in 2007, and it's fed me, not just from a financial standpoint, but from a personal standpoint. Some of my deepest connections and deepest relationships have come from this community, and every single time I've needed something from the community, it's pulled through and provided for me, and I'm unbelievably grateful for that. So I've spent the last 6 years giving and receiving, but I feel like I've received more than I've given, and I want to give back more. So last year, when the board announcements came up, I ran, as many people know, and I was asked in back channels whether I'd consider running again, and I was happy to do so. And part of the reason that I think that I'd be helpful is that I've got board experience. I'm currently on a nonprofit board similar size to the association. And I've got deep roots in the community. I've got the academic training to support this kind of work. Two of my professional degrees are in organizational management of nonprofits. And I think the most important aspect of this is that my deep affection for the people that constitute the Drupal community really becomes a lens for how I would view participating on the board. My main focus, if I'm elected, will be good governance to begin with, and looking at supporting the association and Holly specifically through the art of good governance. And as I get my balance, so to speak, what I would like to do is start looking at youth a little bit more, and how we continue to bring young people into the community, because open source projects like ours often can suffer from what's the equivalent of HR attrition, and attrition can kill an organization, it can kill a project, it can kill a community. So I think that it's going to be really important for us to be looking at people who are younger, bringing them in and helping them achieve the skills that they need to be leaders in our community moving forward. So thank you very much for allowing me time to comment. I appreciate it. Looking forward to the rest of the conversation.
Thanks. And do you prefer Matthew or Matt?
Matthew, please.
Okay. All right. Excellent. Now we have one more candidate on the line, Pedja, but we are just having a terrible time getting Pedja connected to the audio. Pedja, what I'd like to invite you to do now is to include your candidate statement in the IRC channel, and we'll keep working on the audio, and we'll get you connected, and you can participate in the Q&A. But I don't want to miss your candidate statement. So if you can include it in the IRC channel, we can make sure that we get that included in the summaries that go up. So thanks to the candidates for their statements. We're going to move over into the Q&A section. So this is a reminder for all the folks that are connected to the call right now that you can participate now by asking questions of the candidates. You should have a question section in your control panel for the meeting, so you can type your questions right in there. But I will start out with a question for all the candidates, and you guys should feel free to jump in whatever order makes sense. So see if we get your muting stuff worked out here. So here's a question, which is, what do you want to see more of from the Drupal Association, and what would you like to see less of from the Drupal Association?
This is Matthew Saunders. I'd like to see the DA continue its outreach efforts. I feel like we're starting to really have a sense that that's gaining traction. People are getting better. They're understanding what the DA is about a little bit more, and I think that people are starting to make use of DA resources a bit better for things like camps and so forth. Again, I think that I've mentioned youth. I'd like to see the DA really be reaching out to younger people, so those younger people in the community can take up a mantle of leadership ultimately. I don't want there to be sort of this hole where we've got young people who aren't ready to take on leadership, and sort of the old guard that are leaving through attrition or for whatever other reason. I think the DA should be looking to strengthen the Drupal brand. Brand recognition is a form of currency that we can capitalize on. So even as we see Drupal being adopted by bloggers all the way up to governments,
Okay, I can't hear anything now. Am I the only one?
I
can't hear him either.
Hello. Bum, 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 bum. No audio whatsoever. Yeah.
Seems that we lost
Hi,
Matthew
guys.
Saunders and Holly.
No, I was muted. I was talking to myself here in my kitchen. Sorry. Yeah, we did lose Matthew's audio. It looks like we got him to reconnect. Let me get 1 second here. And Matthew, are you there?
Hi.
All right. We lost you for a second there.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Why don't you finish up your thought?
Where did my thought drop?
Oh, you opening up that door?
Oh, Morton.
Sorry, I had to do it.
I think you were talking about reaching out to younger programmers.
Not just programmers. I think it's important for us to widen that swath. I think that we should be looking at not just programmers, but also project managers and people who are more focused on business. This comes from a guy that isn't a programmer, so that brings a different perspective, I think. But I think that it's really important for us to widen the base of people who are supporting Drupal and really try to I think distance is the wrong word, but I think that be highly inclusive of people of professionals who are engaged in the use of Drupal and are engaged in the community who aren't necessarily programmers. Not that there's anything wrong with being a programmer. I couldn't do my job without that portion of the community for sure.
Great.
And I'll leave it at that.
Great. I think that we actually have Pedja on the line now.
Hello.
Brilliant.
Great. After switching 4 offices, I finally get one that won't disconnect me every 30 seconds.
Well, I really appreciate your valiant effort there. Do you want to share a little bit about yourself and then maybe answer the question?
Sure. My name is Pedja Grujic. I'm a director of technology at New Target, Washington, D.C. based open source shop. Our CMS of choice, which is Drupal, and we work with a variety of clients, including governments, nonprofits, associations, as well as small businesses. My primary focus for running for a DA board is to strengthen the quality and the size of the Drupal community, from themer to developer to designer and beyond, because these are the guys who keep the community going as well as the project going strong and taking over more and more of the market share. I've been working with my colleagues here at New Target to bring growth to the Drupal community locally by seeking out DC area colleges, community colleges, universities to find interns in a computer science or IT-related field and expose them not only to Drupal but open source community at large. I want to bring these ideas and programs implemented with success at New Target to the Drupal Association to contribute what works and what doesn't. My plan is to explore this initiative in partnership with colleges and universities to introduce more and more students to Drupal and open source community. One of the biggest challenges that currently is facing Drupal community is the number of skilled developers and a limited talent pool. I just read like 2 days ago a post by Dries, and he basically points out the same thing, which is the basis of me running, that the biggest challenge is facing Drupal currently is that organizations of all sizes can't find Drupal talent. Now, that being the biggest problem, it's not, don't get me wrong, it's a good problem to have. It means that, Drupal project community are growing at a great pace, and we're taking up more and more of the market. But we need to increase the supply to meet the higher demand of Drupal developers, site builders, and themers. My primary focus would be to expand the reach of the Drupal project by growing those programs which help new users get involved and learn Drupal. I believe that my unique blend of business strategy and technical vision, together with how close I am to the code and actual development efforts in Drupal, will be a valuable asset to the strategic direction of the Drupal Association. Association does a great job promoting Drupal, and I believe that is one of the reasons Drupal has become such a strong player among other platforms. Thank you for the opportunity, and I hope we can work together to strengthen Drupal project and the community.
Brilliant. Thank you, Pedja. And do you want to say a little bit about what you might want to see more of from the Drupal Association and less of?
Yeah, I think, as the basis, what I would like to see more is more, not to say recruiting, but more promotion of, because you always hear people like, for example, I'll use some WordPress developers, and we convert those quite often to Drupal. There's a perception that Drupal is so harder to learn, and I've actually met developers who, don't even realize that WordPress and Drupal build on the same language. So I think what I'd like to see more is kind of, bridging that gap between, other open source project developers and Drupal to bring them on board, which I think we're going to be doing more and more with Drupal 8. So I think that would be a big push that I would initiate, is to kind of open up Drupal for everybody, and it's not just specific to people who already work with Drupal.
Great. Thanks, Pedja. Who else has something to share on that question?
Oh, I always have something to say. Should I take it on? It's Morten. So I think that the most important thing for the DA for the next year is actually to make to look at the tools that we are providing for our developers and for the whole community to work with, and that means that D.O needs a ton of love, and if we don't gonna get that done, we're gonna be a major problem within a year. We've seen that the whole last year of not being able to upgrade our own site, not getting on speed with tools. We have a whole bunch of people now who scream to us to move to GitHub. I don't, right now, I don't have a direct opinion on that, but I do know as being a front-end developer that the tools that we have right now is not as sexy as they could be. There's a lot of things on D.O that could be better, and if that doesn't get better, we will be in trouble. So from my perspective, there's no doubt that that should be our top priority for the next year. The next thing I'm going to bang the doors in for the DA, either I'm on the board or not, is actually to provide more help and more tools for people doing camps and events, whatever it's major events like Frontend United or Drupal Dev Days or what have you, or it's small meetups, because the strength of Drupal is not built on business, it's not built on the code, it's built on the people who comes in, and that's kind of a paradox, or it's a nice paradox that we have this kind of hippie-go-lucky feeling on one side that makes everything go around, and we have an ice-cold business on the other side that brings in the money, and that's kind of the synergy that we have been growing on, and I think that's the synergy we keep going on. But there's no doubt that we need to think about what are we going to do in the future, because none of us is getting. We need, of course, we need more. We need more developers in. We need new, fresh perspectives, and for that is kind of where do we get these people in? And if we don't have the good tools for people to develop in, and we don't have a good place where people can start out by learning Drupal, and as me and many others have learned, Commons Drupal events, that was kind of where we got hooked in, because you had that community feeling, you had that feeling of actually being with a bunch of geeks who all wanted to build this amazing thing, and also have a good time with it, and if we're lucky enough we can live by it, then it's even better. And that's kind of a thing that we need to keep. I think we need to keep on. The business part and those things, I think, will come by itself, because, where the money is, the business will go. I should believe that the DA's most important role for the next year is to make sure our developers has the best tools they can get, so we can get DA out the door, and D.O can be a place where we actually can find stuff and love to be, and not get frustrated over the dumb things. So that's kind of my two top priorities.
Brilliant. Jared or Matthew Tift or Eugenio?
I'll jump in quickly. This is Jared Smith. Hey, just a couple of quick things. I think the one thing I would love to see the Drupal Association do is help make sure that we have lots of events around the world, and not just in North America and Western Europe. I'll try to find a way to make events work in other parts of the world where maybe a little harder from a process standpoint to pull off an event, but where we really need to reach out to emerging markets and folks who may have a little less discretionary income to be able to travel around the world to attend an event. And I know that's a big challenge, but it's something that kind of like a fun challenge to try to tackle. And I'll just also highlight what Morten talked about with people that work site. I think we all love what it does and want to make it better, and hope that continue to grow and be a great tool for the developers and the end users to be more efficient with that.
Great. Thanks, Jared. Matt Tift, I want to make sure you're still with us.
Yes, I am.
Great.
And I guess the way I would answer that question is, I think one of the main things I would like to see the Drupal Association do is to continue to grow its membership. And I think there are lots of tools available that maybe aren't being taken advantage of right now. So, for example, I think the way that people can become a member of the Drupal Association, I think that, for example, that process, like the default process for that would be to become a sustaining member. And other nonprofit organizations have found that to be a successful tool where rather than the default being I'm going to become a member for 1 year, the default is I'm going to become a member until I want to stop becoming a member, and maybe transform people to, you know, giving a small amount every month or something like that. So I am sure these types of conversations are going on, but those are the kinds of questions I would like to ask and find out if there's more that we could do. Just things on the website about, for example, you know, why is the button green to become a member? Have other colors been tested? Why is it placed in that place on the website? Because I think these types of sort of targeted marketing to help people become a member, or if they become a member and they're a member for 1 year, I don't think the Drupal Association, as far as I recall, I remember recall getting something like a renewal notice to say, hey, your membership is about to expire. And I know that, you know, again, other nonprofit organizations will send out those renewal notices at a targeted points, you know, 3 months before you're about to expire, 1 month before you expire. And then the whole goal of raising the revenue and continuing to grow the membership, I think, would be to help do a lot of these initiatives that folks have talked about before, helping camps, helping improve D.O, because from my perspective, and looking over the information on association.drupal.org and in the mission statement and that type of thing, is that some of these things, some of these programs are already in place, but it just takes people to run them. It takes people to reach out to all of the different camps all around the world to say, hey, we can be your fiduciary and we can accept money for you, which makes it a lot easier for camps. Or to say, hey, here's some marketing materials that you can put on your registration booth at your camp and help market the association that way. So I think that is one area where I think the association could certainly do more. And the part about doing less, I haven't. I feel like there's so many other things that the association could be doing. I haven't seen a lot of things that I would say I'd like to see less of. Although the one comment I would make is it seems like a lot of the times I see the association or see things associated with the association, it's a sponsored message, a sponsored tweet, a sponsored blog post, or a sponsored, you know, keynote introduction. And I wonder if there are other ways that the association can raise some of this money and maybe not have to do less of these, which I'm sure are very lucrative relationships where we have these different sponsored things. So I'm not going to say we should do less of that, but that is one thing I would ask about.
Brilliant. And Jenny, are you still with us? I see that you are muted, so you would have to unmute yourself. Aha.
Yeah, maybe it's better.
Good.
Okay. In my opinion, the reason what I want to see more and less it's connected to the same thing, because the community is getting more structure, and with more structure is more intimidating to people to approach to the community. So we should make it more accessible to people, because not everybody does things the same way. So it will be fine to help and to support those which would want to get closer, but they still cannot, or they don't know how to do. So it's all about the pros and cons there, about the structure and the organization, which is getting bigger.
Great. Thank you, guys. I think we're on a roll here. Are you ready for the next one? Here's what we're going to ask next. From your vantage point right now, and some of you addressed this a little bit, what do you think is the single most important thing for the community to focus on for the Drupal project to succeed?
I would love to take that. Well, for the Drupal project to succeed right now, well, we have a D8 launch coming up at some point, and I think the most important thing is that we get people up to speed with what's going on, and that means a ton of education, which is one of the fears that's been going on at this point, and that means a ton of community members out there helping out other community members, and that kind of require us to have some kind of structure on everything that goes out, so we can actually provide people with the right resources. So when you do a meetup, it's actually going to be, hey, this is how we're going to get this done. That we make a plan worldwide of how to help people up into speed. Now, I don't think that D8 is going to come out like within a month or 2 months, and especially not with the noise we have right now. But it will be a thing. So to make the project move on, I do think that's a very, very important thing we need to look into. And that require a whole bunch of structure for community-based. And that is, in my opinion, a very good chance for the Drupal Association to get even more knitted in with the Drupal community. So that's kind of the big thing I see, and I will fight my little ass off.
Thanks, Morten. Other people want to tackle that?
This is Jared Smith. I'll jump in here. Much along the same lines, I think our biggest challenge in the community right now is keeping up with growth, whether that's making sure that we have all the features that our end users and developers want in a modern CMS, whether it's making sure that the Drupal developers are able to keep up with the changes in the code, which is particularly applicable as we move to Drupal 8. It's making sure that our end users can keep up with the releases of Drupal, and hopefully they don't have that too painful experience as they upgrade from one version to the next. Whether it's keeping up, making sure that the Drupal development community can keep up with the growth of the community in general, whether it's making sure that the governance and the working groups and those sorts of things, and the Drupal Association itself can continue to grow at the rate that it needs to make sure that whatever governance we set up, grows and doesn't hinder our growth.
Okay. Jared, we lost your audio for a second, so I'm going to go ahead and move on and let that reconnect for you. Other folks want to answer that question?
Yes, this is Pedja. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, hi, Pedja.
Thanks. I think with Drupal, I think what everybody else said, we do have to keep the developer community updated and where the project is going. But what we've seen with the Drupal 7, we had a kind of a snowball effect. White House adopted it, and it went from there. We've gotten more market share. We have a lot more people using Drupal 7 than they use Drupal 6. We want this to continue into Drupal 8, of course. So I think one of the single most important points to focus on is going to be to meet that demand from the market. The more of the market we take, more resources will be needed, not just for Drupal project, for Drupal community, but for organizations to use Drupal. I recently worked as a consultant on a project for one of the largest government entities in the United States, and we were putting Drupal versus SharePoint, and Drupal beat SharePoint in everything except when it came down to the talent. One of the biggest concerns for this particular agency was for them to be able to staff these positions with Drupal developers because, and I'm sure a lot of you already know that it's hard to find quality developers, skilled themers, site builders, and everything because the talent pool is getting smaller and smaller as the market share grows. So I think focusing on growing the community and growing the number of skilled developers, themers, and site builders should be one of the focuses for the association to introduce Drupal to other projects, to introduce basically how well, number one, they can find a job in this economy with Drupal alone, which, couldn't happen 3-4 years ago, but today, if you have Drupal on your resume, you'll get a call from 10 recruiters a day. So I think focusing on pulling people in, creating more resources for the community and for the project should be number one focus, as that will also increase the amount of members we have in the Drupal Association.
Thanks, Pedja.
This is Matthew Saunders. I want to echo what others have said, and put a little bit of a twist on it. I agree that we need to grow our community in order to keep up with demand. The demand just keeps getting larger and larger and larger, and this is manifest by situations like, for example, myself. When I've looked for a job, it hasn't taken me much more than a couple of weeks since I entered the Drupal community to find one, and I feel really blessed because of that. But what I've noticed is over the last number of years, it seems like when I attended DrupalCon in Barcelona, the average age of the convention goer was somewhere around 26, 27, 28 years old. And there were some people who were a bit older. There were some that were a bit younger, but it seemed like that was about the average. At the last DrupalCon that I went to, which was Portland, it seems like the average age has increased to somewhere around 36, 37, 38 years old. And again, there's some younger and some older and some very obvious younger members in the community, which is cool and awesome. But I do worry about that donut hole between the up and comers and the folks that are leading at this point, who are a little bit older. It seems to me like when you're working with older people, you might have a little bit more wisdom, a little bit more experience, but it's the job of us to bring in, attract younger people to the community, and help them build themselves up to positions of leadership. And it's critical, in my opinion, for the sustainability of the project as a whole, for us to engage in those kinds of recruiting activities. And I don't think that this is just something for the DA to do. I think that this is a task that needs to be shared amongst every single member of the active community.
Great, thank you.
This is Matthew Tift, and
Hi,
I'll just say that it would seem quite obvious that the challenge with the community is not finding good people to run for the board, because those are a lot of very good answers. So I would I guess the way I would phrase it is, it seems like dealing with the growth of the community could be the single biggest challenge. Because then if you say that, then I can say all kinds of other things related to that with Drupal.org and the complexity of Drupal core growing with Drupal 8, training people, all of these types of things. I do think that the complexity of Drupal core moving forward is going to become more and more of an issue. And yesterday was obviously a big day in that front, with this people finding out about this fork of Drupal. And so I'll be very interested to see how that pans out. But I think that as the complexity of Drupal core grows, and core development can no longer be something that people can easily just jump in and do, that one of the challenges is certainly going to be finding ways to fund people to work on Drupal core. And I understand that, you know, the association, their mission is not to affect the code or not to write the code for that, but it seems like one of the things that they could do to help with that issue is to help promote organizations sponsoring developers to work on core, or finding some methods. There have been some innovative ones coming forward recently, but finding other methods to help fund the core development, because, I mean, Drupal core is at the core of Drupal, and if too many people continue to get burned out and leave and not want to do core development, that seems like that could have some pretty serious consequences.
Great. And Eugenio, did you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I agree pretty much with Matthew, and I see a problem with the complexity of the core in Drupal 8, since the code is becoming also more structured and more like more clean, let's say. It's required more developer to be to have knowledge, and this can be more difficult. And also, the community expect to have all the same functionality they had before with Drupal 7 or with the previous. So this can be hard work to give back all what they had already.
Great. Well, let's go on that theme for a moment. As Eugenio and Matthew pointed out, it is not in the Drupal Association mission to touch the code. That belongs to the community. But
Right.
it is
Yeah.
in our mission to help the project succeed, right? So to help Drupal gain market share and make it a dominant player in the CMS market. So obviously those two are intertwined, right? You have to have good code to have a product that people are going to want to use. So how do you see the Drupal Association helping to create the best possible Drupal product without overstepping our bounds and getting engaged in the code itself?
I will repeat myself that we need the right tools to get the job done. That means that D.O needs a ton of love, and that we should provide a good entry point, as has been mentioned before, that people are getting older and more experienced. How do we get new people in? Well, we have the whole user group, Drupal Camp, Meetup, DrupalCons kind of thing. We have the issue queues, we have the mentoring programs. All of these programs we need to have more focus on, and the DA should use way more energy on that. But especially D.O needs a ton of love, and we can see some of the issues right now. If we really want to do forks, we can just get the DA to begin to take decision on the code, and then we'll have all the fun in the world. And that will never, ever happen. But that's a whole other discussion.
Thanks. And that was Morten for folks who don't know his voice.
This is Matthew Saunders. The association is a 501c3 under the IRS code, and this speaks to an educational mandate. To my mind, that really means that the work that the DA does around building around raising money and so forth should be highly focused on providing educational opportunities, engaging in outreach, engaging in activities that support people to learn and insert themselves in the community, so they can be better participants, so they can be better stewards of the code themselves, so they can be better stewards of the resources that we've got. So I mean, I believe that the DA really has a mandate around education.
Other folks want to jump in there?
This is Eugenio. I think it's to work a lot on branding in order to make people to want to learn, and at the same time to offer educational service and probably involvement with the university and training workshop and all what can support.
Great. Pedja or Jared or Matthew Tift?
This is Matthew Tift. I guess I would say that related to what I had said before about growing the membership, it would seem to me that the association could take a bit more of a role in doing some of the things that other companies right now, well, Acquia for the most part, have been doing with trying to grow more core contributors. It seems like that could be the type of activity that the Drupal Association could do more of. From what I understand, there's nothing from stopping the association from hosting a code sprint and inviting people that are working on the initiative to lead it, or that when there is a camp or something like that, that perhaps the association, again, if you raise more funds, have more money from members, have more sustaining members, maybe one of the positions is somebody from the association going to camps where they're speaking about the importance of contributing to the code, where they're helping with the registration booth, and they're bringing promotional materials for the Drupal Association, and then maybe they're hosting or they're helping with the planning for these events, for these camps, for the code sprints, and then maybe, you know, again, if there is the funds available, sort of along the lines of some of these community funds that I think I forgot, that's probably the community cultivation grants, helping with those sprints, and you know, maybe flying in again the initiative lead or something like that for different areas working on the Drupal core. So that I think is one way, or that's not one, that's a whole bunch of ways that the association could get involved. And from what I understand, those wouldn't be in conflict of its the organization's charge.
Great. Jared or Pedja?
Yes. Yeah, I kind of have to say that, you know, the Drupal Association really shouldn't be, or they don't get involved with the code, which is a good thing. They should be the kind of a separate third party, and instead provide developers and project support and work with member organizations to support core and module development. If you look at, you know, a lot of modules are either sponsored by or maintained by local shops. I think that's a program that can be grown, that, you know, certain developers who are more and more becoming part of the core, like, get either you know, support from the member organizations, or, you know, member organizations support certain modules, whether it's financially or providing other benefits. You know, I think DA can really help with Drupal education and outreach strategy, which will both help grow the membership and grow the market share, which ultimately is what the DA should be doing, instead of trying to decide which modules should be used and, you know, where the code goes. The code belongs to the Drupal community, and I think the way we're handling changes now is working really well, because everybody gets their voice in, instead of a DA or somebody making the final decisions or rulings.
Great. And Jared, are you still online with us? Oh, I muted you. I forgot about that. Hold please, Jared. Let's try it again. Sorry. There we go. Jared, I think if you unmute yourself now, there we go.
There we go. I don't have much other to add than maybe focus a little bit on the working groups that have been put in place from a governance perspective over the past year or so. I was involved early on in those discussions about, you know, what makes sense, and from a governance perspective, and some of the things that I've seen in other open source communities that have worked well, and the concept of working groups is something that I talked to Drew about more than a year ago. But I want to see that idea continue, and make sure that the working groups have the tools that they need to be able to do their jobs, and continue to get the focus on what they're working on, and get recognition for the hard work that they are doing.
Thanks, Jared. Good. So our next question is actually from one of our candidates, but dovetails nicely with something I would have asked anyway, which is about the process of governance. So one of the exciting things is that all of the candidates come to the table with certain things that you want to see happen at the Drupal Association. And yet the role of the board is not necessarily to step into the operations of the association, determine, you know, every little program move that it makes, and what, you know, et cetera. So I think I'd be really curious to hear about, you know, what you think you bring to the table as a board member from a governance perspective, and where you see that line between governance and operations. In other words, where's the line between board and staff, and what do you think you bring to the table as a board member?
So I'm going to answer, this is Matthew Saunders. I'm going to answer the question, I guess, because it seemed like there's some silence there. That was my question?
Yeah.
So Obviously, I've got some thoughts on that. I'll start by talking about what I bring to the table, and that is quite a bit of board experience myself. I was the board vice president and secretary for a educational nonprofit that governs a charter school in Colorado. Its budget is roughly the same size as the Drupal Association's budget. Although the specific group of people that particular nonprofit serves is rather smaller, still the same kind of governance challenges exist, regardless of what the number of constituents that you've got in your particular community. From my standpoint, when I'm looking at board responsibilities, the board is responsible for things like mission, values, goals, organizational health and viability, survival of the organization, making sure that the organization has the resources that it needs in order to operate. And then there's this sort of area which seems to me to be shared between the board and between leadership at the organization itself, and that's stuff like strategic planning and organizational evaluation, looking at things like finance policies, membership, and to a certain extent employment terms, although employment sits directly in the executive director's lap. And then we've got operational kinds of things which the board should never, ever get involved in, because if they are, it means that there's dysfunction in the organization in ways that are pretty frightening. That's things like staffing, specific management of programs, internal systems, things like that. And it behooves the executive director to ask for advice as needed from board members who have expertise in these areas, but the board should never be making decisions in this area. So, I mean, from my standpoint, what I think I bring is the depth of knowledge of nonprofits and boards, but also the breadth of my involvement in the community over the last 6-7 years.
Thanks, Matthew. Other folks want to try to tackle that?
Morten here, I can take a stab at it. Well, I bring what I would say from a grassroots perspective, a ton of experience. I've been doing this since I was 13. I'm 39 now, so that gives me 26 years of organizing and talking and making people move in some way or the other. And of course, 7 years in the Drupal community and knowing a ton of people. And as this is a community chair, I think that what I bring here is actually a huge knowledge about the community. People basically, I have an idea if people know who I am, and they know they can always come and talk to me, shout at me, get drunk with me, say dumb things to me without me. Well, maybe I get mad, but we're gonna fix that up later. And I have this whole. It's great to work with people and figure out what can make this thing go better and how we can think those kind of tactics. I do see it as, and another thing I also bring, by the way, is this whole international perspective that if we want to grow Drupal international, we need to have people sitting on the board who's not rooted, that's rooted all over the world, and not so much based on what you. It's not a criteria or a plus like that, but it's a thing that I do bring. Another perspective. It has changed my perspective somehow the last year by going so much back and forth to between Europe and the States, and that's been a very great learning experience. When we look at tactics, I do see that the board, we figure out what is it that we need to get done. We put out basically lay out a strategy and then figure out also with the staff actually how we're going to do this. In some ways, by being grassroots, it will be hard for a person like me to keep myself away from actually ending up in the weeds. Because if I'm out at a camp and I can see people having a need for something, I want to have help with something, whatever it is, I will, of course, always admit it's so deeply rooted in my blood that I cannot keep my way from it. And the thing about kind of leadership is also, and that's kind of the thing I've been shouting out about, at least the DA board the last years, is the lack of leadership. I think we saw like 2 years ago. It was kind of, the DA was kind of invincible and always kind of an organization that kind of meddled things up. And that's the thing that's been changed greatly the last year, which I'm very happy to see. But that also requires that we have people who believe in themselves, have a clear vision of what they want to do, and is able to roll with the punches when they come, because of course they will come. And again, especially in I guess what we're going to see the next year with that little initiative that came out yesterday. And that's kind of how I see it. I'm way more rooted in the grassroots, so I'm not so much up on rules and what we should do and should not do. Maybe I kind of like still to just get dirty when that's needed and just roll with the punches and get stuff done.
Thanks, Morten.
This is Matthew Tift. I guess I think the way I understand the board is, I mean, for me, it seems like one of the main responsibilities is regarding fundraising and with financial oversight. It seems like the board can do a lot to try and help the Drupal Association staff, and specifically the board seems like a good place where they can kind of, the board members are the ones who are trying to always keep in mind the mission and looking at what the staff are doing and essentially asking questions, I think, maybe rather not telling them, but saying, so how does this program relate to the board's mission or the Drupal Association's mission? How, why are we doing this way? And sort of asking questions representing the members of the association. And maybe to me it seems a little bit like a politician representing their people to ask questions sort of on behalf, to be in the room, to be paying attention, to be saying, so what's going on with this? So like what I mentioned before, like the fundraising and the membership, and so I guess I was talking about specific things like choosing a button and that kind of thing, but I think in that particular instance, that's something where I've had a lot of experience with in my other roles, raising money online. So that's not something where I feel like I would tell a board member or the staff what to do, but to maybe just ask questions. Have you considered this? This is an area where I've done some work, or to maybe offer, like Morten was suggesting, that's sometimes where you might want to say, well, I've done A/B testing on this type of thing before, and this this software works, and maybe offering to help out. I don't know if that is, again, cool or not, but it seems like there might be certain places where if you are knowledgeable about a particular area, to speak up, and maybe if it's in the form of a question rather than the form of this is what you people need to do, because that definitely does not seem like a good role of a board member. More about asking questions about how does the activities connect to the mission, and how, and then also revising the mission statement as needed, and sort of the strategic planning, looking to the long term, maybe the things that somebody who works at the association, they're when they're doing this day to day, they're not necessarily regularly, other than maybe their annual review or something, thinking about what's going to happen 5 years from now. But that's something that a board member might ask. So how is this leading us toward our long-term goals, our short-term goals?
Thanks, Matthew.
This is Jared Smith. I'll jump in briefly here. A couple of things I bring. One is an outside perspective. Like I said earlier, I've been involved with open source communities around the world, and we're not the only open source community here trying to solve some of the issues we're dealing with. So bringing an outside perspective, somebody who understands the difference between the strategic and the tactical, and knowing that the board really needs to focus on the strategic decisions and leave the tactical to other folks. And then I guess the other perspective I bring is that I don't think the best use of my time is to dive into the code right now and start coding modules. I think there's better things I can do at the same time.
Thanks, Jared. Eugenio or Peja?
This is Peja. With over 12 years working in various open source systems, and as Matthew said, we aren't the only one, and most open source projects face similar problems. I can, for one, say Linux and Ubuntu communities have a lot of the similar issues. Having worked with a variety of different clients and federal governments, I really bring to the board the unique insight into the challenges facing those markets. I've worked a lot with member-driven nonprofits, and I think what I bring is that unique insight that I've seen member-driven organizations with 500,000 to 6 million members, and how they use, whether it's Drupal or another system, to build that membership. And I'm not saying that I bring the coding level, I bring the strategy and the thinking of how to promote Drupal association, how to support our mission, how to do fundraising in a way that I've seen all these other larger associations do it. As far as where the difference is between what the board and what the staff do, I think that's pretty clear. But, as a board member, we're there to support the mission, participate with any of the policies that drive the association. One of the most important things is, I think, fundraising, as well as new, priorities and new initiatives that we can help with.
Great. And Eugenio, I think you are muted. There you go.
Okay, yeah, okay. I think from my experience, as I said, it's 3-4 years that I'm contributing to Drupal community. But in the last 2 years, in 2011, I contributed to the organization of Drupal Day Italy. And in 2012, I was the main organizer. And it's a large event with more than 200 people with streaming. And also the streaming, it's more than 200 people connected. So I'm quick in getting the things and giving a response. I can see how the community behave and what they need to be involved. So in Italy, it's not so easy to have such a large number of attendees. So I could understand what they want and to decide the strategy for the people I'm dealing with. Okay, that's
great. All right, you guys. I have what I think is our final question. Probably we'll see something else comes in. If you guys have more questions out there, feel free to ask them. But it's the last one in our queue today, which is basically, I think it'd be great to share some of your inspiration for, wanting to embark on this journey. So I think it'd be great to hear from each of you your favorite moment from the Drupal community that maybe inspired you to want to do this and make sure that we create more of them.
Well, I can say my favorite moment is still 3 years ago. I had a daughter that was 3 months premature, and the amount of support I got from the community was completely overwhelming. How to put it? About a year and a half ago, I was frustrated beyond belief about the project and where the code was going, based off I'm a front-end developer, and people who knows the front-end in Drupal will probably at least know my point about it. I think it's very wrong. I think everything should be done in another way. And a year and a half ago, it didn't seem like we were going that way. And I was kind of a little bit like, do I really want to use my time on this? And then you figure out what kind of people is in this community. And then you go, okay, I kind of owe it to give it one more chance. And so I think that thing had kind of that dragged myself back in to the community, because it is kind of true when he says come for the code, stay for the community, and that whole experience of seeing how many people were suddenly aware of my situation and kept my spirit up. That was pretty incredible. And that has nothing to do with the code. It's nothing to do with anything but the people. And so I kind of think I kind of owe it to everybody to push even harder. And that's maybe why I'm this still this angry Viking type who cannot slow down. So that's my most remarkable story in this community.
My moment, my favorite moment, sort of spread across a year and a half.
And can we just get you to remind us who you are?
Oh, this is Matthew Saunders.
Okay. And thanks, Morten, for that first one.
My favorite moment kind of spread over a year and a half when quietly in a back IRC channel there was whispering in our local community about how it looks like Denver is going to get DrupalCon, and that started up an 18-month journey, which at times felt like I had taken on a second job. And at times it felt like a second full-time job as our community rallied together and I think put on a pretty amazing, wonderful event. And I know that all of our events are wonderful, but when you participate in the organization of one of these events, it's a really amazing and fabulous experience. And that all culminated on the last day of the convention, when our team was standing up on the stage, and it was an enormous relief, but also at the same time a little bit of sadness that it had come to an end, and a whole lot of pride. And this all comes right back to what Morten just said. It's all about the people. And you know, as I had mentioned earlier in our conversation, the people in this community have always found their way to supporting me when I needed to be supported, and I feel like I've reciprocated and supported others when they needed to be supported. Some of my deepest and most rewarding relationships over the last 6 years have grown from this amazing group of people. And I truly believe that if Drupal were to disappear tomorrow, those relationships would continue on, and those friendships would not just go away. They would continue to deepen as they have over the last 6 years.
Here is Eugenio. My favorite moment was probably last year in Munich, where for the first time after working on contributed module, supporting community and so, I got to know many people that I knew on forum or chat, ERC, and even Cheeks came to ask for us because we contribute the modules that it was interesting also for him. So it was fine to find that people important for the community also notice us sometime, and this was a bit of a reward.
Good. Hedja?
No, this is Matthew Tift.
Great. Hi, Matthew.
Hi. I was going to say that there is a lot of favorite moments I could choose from. One that stands out in my mind was last year at Twin Cities Drupal Camp, and we had decided over the past, I mean, we've run the camp for the past 3 years, and I've been involved each year, and we've always made it a priority to try and bring people in that can help new contributors, that can run sprints and do things like that. And last year, it seemed like we just got lucky, and all these really fantastic Drupal developers showed up at our camp, and Chick stayed at my house, and I was driving back and forth each day and learning quite a lot in the car rides. But I remember we were at a sprint, and I asked Earl Miles was there as well, and I asked him, "What are you doing?" And he said, "I can't tell you. It's secret." And then I thought, okay. And well, it turns out that that day was at that sprint was when Views and Drupal core came about, and that Tim Plunkett and XJM and Earl Miles and some other folks were sort of meeting in secret. And then as a result of that, after all of this planning and all in bringing in people from all around the world and that kind of thing, and then something really big to me that had seemed like a no-brainer for so long, putting Views in core, was sort of born at Drupal Camp Twin Cities, and that it was really through the foresight of the other people on the Twin Cities Drupal Camp to make that a priority to try and help grow our community that way by bringing in these other folks leading sprints and having other community-oriented growing events.
Thanks, Matthew. And Pedja, are you still with us?
Yeah, I'm here. Well, I think it's hard to pick a favorite moment over, at least with the Drupal community over the past 6 years, there's been plenty of those. But I have to say some of my favorite moments are either getting to a DrupalCon registration or a camp or Capital Camp, Bad Camp, any type of Drupal camp or a Drupal meetup, and especially when you're getting there for the first time, or to register, and you just see the amount of people, just everybody getting together. It just showcases the strength of the Drupal project and community. It won't go 5 minutes goes by that you don't see somebody or somebody you've actually worked on some code with or chatted on IRC that you've kind of said, let's meet up for the first time and hang out. A couple of months ago, I went back to Europe for vacation, and I was able to go to 3 different cities, Sarajevo, Bosnia, Zagreb, Croatia, and Belgrade, Serbia, and I was able to actually meet up with some Drupal folks who, I've met through Drupal.org and through various webinars. So that was a great experience, and I think that's one of the really great strengths about Drupal community is that it's very, very close. So I'd say my favorite moment, any kind of Drupal get-togethers.
Thank you. Well, all right, you guys, I think we made it through our list of questions here. So I just want to say thank you again for taking the time to share with us today, as well as be part of this process. It means a lot to know that there are so many community members out there that want to contribute in this way, and a board contribution certainly is significant. So thank you very much for that. And so just as a reminder for everyone out there, our next steps from here, we have a couple more days of the candidate profiles being available at association.drupal.org/nominations. So if you have questions for individual candidates, you can go in and do so, ask those questions. And candidates, just a reminder to keep checking back for new questions on your page. So we'll keep that going for a couple of days. And then on Sunday, we will be opening up the voting the 15th of September. So look for that announcement on the association homepage, on the Drupal homepage, and basically everywhere you go, you should be followed by a please vote tag starting Sunday on. But keep that in mind. And then we will be ratifying the election results on the 22nd of September at the Drupal Association board retreat, and making the announcements public on Wednesday of the following week. So